Welcome along, team. Important. I think this is important. All right. So, those of you who know me, great. Those of you who don't, you'll get to know me across the course of this. What I will say is this, though. We're not going to rattle questions all the way through. I'm going to ask you stuff and show you stuff and all that, but this isn't one of those. I've come in on a live session or, you can't do this on the recording anyway, and I'm just going to blurt out everything in my head. This is not how it's going to roll. All right. There's a lot of people that do that, those kind of support groupy style things. But that is not it. Okay, I'm going to try and give you over an hour of my time and try and give you some real use, some useful stuff. But it's only going to be applicable to people in a certain position. All right, that's the key I want to make. So I'm going to try and give you an hour, maybe more, of useful stuff you can take away. I'm literally going to show you behind the scenes in what we do so you can see, like, oh, they actually do this for people. This isn't theory, how we've come to some of these things. And really, it's all about how the title said it, how high performers, people say, I'm not a high performer, how anyone regains focus, gets on top of their energy. And really, one thing I would say tonight is how can you achieve big goals, whatever they are, faster and easier, because that's possible. Doesn't matter what your big goal is. And I work with lots of different people, people who run multi-million pound businesses, people who are like, man, I'm just getting off the grind in my own well-being and personal health, people who are like, God, I am somebody who's really trying to get back control of my life, somebody who's like, I'm flying and I know you're the man. I get that a lot now. Hey, I know you're the guy to help people really fly and break through that stuff on a consulting basis. Like, I work with loads of different people. All right. And so I'm going to try and show you behind the scenes in more of a high performance mind version, but I think everyone's going to get some value. So that's what it is. How can we achieve big goals in 90 days, 6 months, goals that you thought almost felt impossible? All right. Now, everyone ready to rock and roll, and I'll include you along the way. I know Man United are playing tonight, and everyone's like, sorry, Man United are playing. I can't quite make this. I'm like, I'm a Man United fan. I get it. I forgot about that. So, just quickly, I'm going to share my screen, and can you let me know you can see it? Because I think that's going to help. Oh no, I'm on a different network. This is going to go bad news. I'm just going to change my internet really quickly. We've logged into a different internet by accident. If you lose me for 2 seconds, don't panic. Right, now let's go. Let's go. Come on, Simon says. There I am. Apologies. My laptop has a wonderful way of logging into next door's internet. I do not know why it does that. My next door, I mean, people up the other end of the office block somewhere. So, can you see after that little interlude, can you see my, yeah, brilliant, perfect. So, how do we achieve possible dreams? Well, I'm going to say this straight out, okay? I'm going to tell you what I know from working with people, hundreds of people a month, okay? The key to achieving your big goals, whatever they may be, in 90 days is the following. So you can write these down because we're going to cover them. All right. And I'll tell you why and how and all the rest of it. But the first one is we have to do some mindset shifting. All right. We're going to cover that straight out the gate. It's like there's some mindsets that we need to get into, and there's some mindsets that we need to get out of. Like that's important. You're never, and I'm going to cover the ones I see most commonly. So if you see enough people, you see similar patterns at similar steps of the journey, right? So we're going to cover mindset shifting straight out of the gate. The other thing is mission building. We're not necessarily going to cover that tonight, but we have to, if you're going to achieve some goals in your life, you have to have a mission. And by mission, I mean you have to have some kind of vision, some aim. But with mission, we're going to cover that at the end. People get caught up in to-dos and setting crappy goals, and like the goals they think they should set and all that kind of stuff. But a mission is very different to a goal. A mission is very different to a vision. Mission building is important. We're going to cover that at the end tonight, not the start, because I know most people are coming for the flow and the energy. The third thing is we have to cover some energy stacking. Now, when I say that, people often think of a principle we teach called the recovery stack, which is a basic principle of high performance mind. We give that away these days. It used to be advanced for us maybe 18 months ago. We're like, oh my God, the recovery stack, such a cool thing. But we kind of give that away and we're like, go and build these recovery stacks because we've got much more advanced stuff now. But stacking energy, all right, we're going to cover that. And I'm going to show you why that's important over basic practices. There's a lot of mistakes you make there, people make. The fourth thing is flow mapping. It's a new thing, a new concept. The mapping element is for us, not flow. I've been teaching that for years and years and years, but really important. And there are four things I want to try and cover this evening. I want to give you some value. Now, I did think, oh, maybe we should just do a webinar on flow or a webinar on, meditation, stuff like that. But that's what our YouTube channel will be for from now on, like little short one topic things. This is a webinar, this is a training. This is me trying to give you some live value that you can plug into your life and say, you know what, I'm going to plug that in. All right. But those four things really are going to help you on your journey. Now, I'll keep it in the frame, but there are two journeys. And this is the most important thing I'm going to cover. This is not going to be for some of you. You're going to look at it and go, maybe this isn't the right step. It'd be interesting, but it's not what you need to do next. I'm going to be really honest about that because good coaching is not just, well, I'll take the most advanced stuff and give it people because more advanced means better results. It's what's the appropriate next step for that individual? That's what all good coaching is. What is the next step for them? What's the logical, appropriate next step? And so you're going to go on two journeys for the most part. More than that, more transformations. But journey one for most people is when you're getting yourself together. It's when you're getting everything in line. And it's when you probably get interested in personal development and energy and achieving goals. And I hope that's why some of you are here. And you're like, okay, you go on that initial journey. And that initial journey looks different to this, but just for visually, we'll map it out a touch. And it says, so, there's an initial uptick in progress, and then you're going to have a little drop in progress. And then hopefully, if you're doing the right things, it's up and down, but eventually, you make progress. It flips up. And that first journey is okay. Like I said, I'm getting myself together. And at that point, you can be general. You have bit of a general energy work, set some goals, maybe improve your communication, learn some stuff, listen to some podcasts. That's the generalist game, right? Now, a lot of people don't make that journey. And that's because there's a mindset shifting that needs to happen in that. And I want to make that really crucial so you can see if you've made that journey. The first thing is, a lot of people will say, Si, you're getting going. And people say, Si, I've consumed your 5-day reboot, for example. I'm looking at all your webinars. And it's great to see people on here, by the way, saying, I want to join your academy. I want to do something. Brilliant. Because the first step, and often people don't like this, but I talk about this a lot of places now, you can't not see it is, the first step for most people in any area they want to improve, be it their business, their career, their relationship, their physical health, their mental health, their performance, is you've got to go from searching. This is a mindset shift. You've got to see the difference from searching and consuming the free information that everyone puts out there to committing and going all in on something, investing in yourself. That has to happen. If you look at any area of your life where you think, God, I've really kicked on there, you probably invested, you felt the need to invest in yourself. And people often, and this has been said to me a few times on podcasts, if you were a multi-millionaire, I'm not sure why they don't think I am, but if you were, would you do everything for free? And I was like, no, I'd never take that and give it for free. Not because of me, but because of the individual. Roughly, I said to a lady this week, roughly 10% of people finish free things. Why? Because it's free. And there's no skin in the game and there's no investment. Things you invest money into, you value. This is free tonight. Like I'm not charging you at any point, but it's true. And there's a difference between can't and won't in investment. A lot of people say, well, I can't, that's fair enough. A lot of people just won't. Because I don't see the point. And you'll never transform an area of your life without getting seriously committed to it. Whether it's a business or a job, you think, I'm going to invest some money into this to grow it. Whether it's your relationship, and you think, I need to work on my communication patterns. There is no one out there, any book that's written, I've written too, any podcast is surface level. It's surface level stuff because that's all there's time for. There's no deep, because to integrate information is hard. You just think about that. How many people have tried to get fit and you go, give me, when I was a PT back in the day, people would say, give me a diet plan, give me a workout. Yeah, okay. Your friends. Yeah, it didn't work. I don't know if it works for me. Oh, it's because they fell off because life got busy. Or they went out with their mates. And all of a sudden, integrating that information into their life became hard. But that's what coaching is. Coaching is like, how do I help you integrate this? Oh, you've fallen off, you've made mistakes. How do we improve along the way? That's what coaching is. And that's a big first step to make. Now, when you make that first step, if you do, and you invest in something and you go all in on something, you're like, man, let's go. You're going to have this initial uptake in progress. And we call that the false high. And a lot of people will use that to sell you something, get you on a high and sell you. It's used in a lot of live events, get people in higher levels of states, and then say, you can do this, but it's normally 20,000, but for one time only, I'm knocking 18,324 pounds off the price today. And I'm throwing in my mum who's going to come and cook your tea. And I'm throwing in my dog who will go walking with you only today. And you're like, oh my God, it's such a good offer. He's giving me his mum and his dog, and it's so 18,000 pounds cheaper. Normally it's 4 billion pounds. I'm in. It's the false high. And then after there's the buyer's remorse. Oh, I didn't want to buy that. I had to sell my car. I need my car. I didn't even want to do it. That happens all over the industry on the false high. But also it plays out. You'll have a false high. When you first start doing anything, there's an uptick in progress. And people are like, I'm fixed. I am fixed. That was the one thing I needed. And when that wears off, we go, I'm not fixed. And what do? We tend to circle back round and do the false high thing again. Oh, maybe I need to go back and do that reboot, or maybe I need to go back and try that again, that plan I did. Oh, it's great. And then it wears off. Oh, and then we go back. That cycle has got to end. You've got to notice the false high and say, okay, this is early on. Nothing's transforming now. It's a mindset shift to go from searching for free stuff all the time to getting serious and investing in your life. I've had to do that and still do. The false high, which is like, okay, I'm not fixed. Like, there's no fixing. I'm just experiencing a nice high at the start, like a new relationship, a new job. It's going to wear off. Now what? Now I keep going. Now I understand the false high. I keep going. And the third thing that happens here is this is one of the biggest traps to get into, by the way. And we're not even into the content yet, but this is important. People go, you know what? I've achieved great things. I'll just stop. How many of you have done that? I've done that. It's like, things ain't so bad anymore. I find it mind blowing. When I was at like PT back in the day, people achieve great things and say, oh God, I've lost this weight. I've completed this race. I think I'm going to do something else now. So I'm going to go over there. And you think, okay. And then a few months later, they'd be like, yeah, I'm back because actually I've got into bad habits again. It's like, why did you even leave something that was doing so much good for you? That's a weird human psychology thing. Oh my God, this has been amazing. But I think I'm going to go it on my own. I need to go it on my own. What a story that is. It's like, why do you need to go on your own? And that's because we still see coaching, we still see community as like what you do if you're broken. It's mind blowing to me. People like LeBron James spend like 1.5 million pound a year on their well-being, right? And I'm not saying you have to do that. Top of their game, getting coached, being curious, trying to improve. Top teams, top athletes, top business owners. But in the society, we tend to go, you do that kind of shit when you're broken. And if you're not broke anymore, there's no point doing it. We see support and as like weak rather than, no, this is how you excel. Anyone who excels at anything doesn't do it on their own. Even the top people you follow in the world don't do it on their own. They get people advising and guiding. They see the benefit. And they're three things that if you don't line them up, you won't make journey number one. And journey number one is getting your shit together. I think we do that really well in our academy. Many of you are in there. You're like, yeah, I can feel myself getting myself together. It's great. But any of you who have still not made that step in our free stuff, this isn't a criticism. It's just to know when you've done this for nearly 12 years now, I think it is, this plays out. The refusal to see the difference between learning and actually getting into something, that's a big difference. Go from searching to committing. The second thing is to go from, oh God, false high, this is it, I'm fixed. And the third thing is understand that You don't have to get to this point where all of a sudden you don't do this. I remember trying to work with Matt Gallant's coaching team on something. Matt Gallant's massively famous. And there was this thing called unbreakable commitment. It's like, you will commit to your health for the rest of your life or not work with us. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, what a great mindset. Commit to your health for the rest of your life. The better it gets, the better it gets. And like that's a pattern we get into. Now, the second journey, some of you can probably relate to that, is the journey of high performance. That's what we're talking about here. High performance is like, now I want to accelerate. I've built some kind of foundation. How do I go faster? What's my next steps? And anyone who has got a demanding role, a business, a career will understand this. And it's a bit easier to understand sometimes because maybe you see that your performance at work is down to you and how you show up, and it probably has financial implications for you. So sometimes it's easier to sort of angle it there. But that next level of high performance, if this is generalization, is specification. To make the next step, you have to dig into specification. That's been my experience of that. I got really far in a self standpoint, being general and absorbing all this stuff and practicing and working with great people. Then you think, okay, how do I dial this in for myself? Supplementation is great. You can go broadly supplement your life. But if you want to really make a difference, having your bloods done, having your DNA done, having the amounts dialed in, that's going to have a far better impact than just taking a general multivitamin. But there's nothing wrong with taking a general multivitamin. That's a good thing to do. Generalization, great. Specification. What is your flow and focus triggers? What gets you focused? What phase of energy are you at? Are you going through a period of stress, period of burnout? Are you going through a period where you need to be on it and creative? When you know how to specify, you can dial that in and you will move faster than ever. But there's still things you have to do here. Imagine that carries on. The first thing you have to do is to make that step to a higher performance. You have to be willing to let go of what's worked. You have to burn it to the ground to make room for what's next. So it has to happen. None of this here is going to get you that next level. It's not going to happen. It's a case of I need to let go of stuff. And that can be difficult because in the letting go and breaking stuff to make room for new things, there's a dip in what feels like a dip in progress. I've experienced it myself. I see it a lot in coaching. It's like you're not going to feel like you feel like you're not getting anywhere for a while because you've got to let go of these things that have come in and done so well for you. But unless you do let go of them, you don't have any room for anything else. And so step one is you have to break things. What got you here won't get you there. The second mindset to shift there is you've got to think bigger. So how many people here have achieved huge transformation, like when you think about where you started? And then the next leg of your journey becomes one where you think smaller. It's weird. You're like, oh God, I'm thinking smaller. And that's because we're scared of losing what we got. Often when you start in a journey, you've got nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose when I started, nothing. And I've risked it all so many times, financially, physically, mentally. I had not much to lose. But as you acquire progress and you're afraid to let go because you think, I've got more to lose now. So we think smaller. But we've got to think bigger. We've got to stretch. And we're going to cover that in mission building because if you don't, you're in problems. And so there's two shifts there, really. Number one is like, you've got to let go of what's got you from A to B, what works to get to that next step. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Second thing is, that's going to come with a reduction in progress. It's going to feel that way. And then you have to think bigger. You have to say, my aim's up here. Now, with specification, you can make that jump. You can make it. But you never make it trying to do more of the same. And that is the key insight here. If you think you're going to do more of this and keep traveling up, that's wrong. It doesn't happen. You're going to plateau and then you need to break it and you need to do something different. And that is what will give you that upward tick in progress. So key number one, you think, God, I really want to win back my time. I really want, is how do I dial this in more bespokely for myself? And to show you that, and is this making sense, by the way, just straight out the gate? And if you think, God, I'm in stage one, you're going to get value here. You will. But understand those mindset shifts. You're in one of those places probably. And now you know that you can adjust. If you're trying to make that jump again, understand, okay, I need to let stuff go with some stuff and get more bespoke in my work. Now, I'll show you, like, I'm willing to show you absolutely everything we do within reason. Let me show you some screens. But just to show you that we don't mess about, we do this with like maybe action planning wise, maybe 60 people a month now. And this is a fake action plan, what you might call a master plan, a master template. But if someone comes to work with us, it's bespoke in that realm, in the sense that we're going to get bespoke energy stuff. We're going to build a bespoke training for that individual, and that can be anything. There's going to be a bespoke focus practice in there. There's different places to check in, but the point I'm trying to make is people may go through burnout training. Is that when I say build bespoke, I don't mean okay, just follow some generic things. I mean, we're going to build that out. So we would do that with roughly 60 people, I think, a month at the minute, maybe more by the time we work with businesses on, and I probably will show you an example at the end on, okay, how do we build out a bespoke document for this individual based on where they are? All right. So I'm not practicing this. We're practicing this stuff all the bloody time, you know? Now, let's get into it because that's why, even more why you're here. But I wanted to show you that because I think sometimes I've been on webinars, I think, do you actually do this with people or are you just talking about it? You think, no, no, we're doing it. There's an example. We can give you actual personal examples down the line. Can everyone see my whiteboard again? Yeah? Just let me know. Perfect. I presume you said yeah. Great. So let's move this on. Number one, let's look at energy stacking. The first thing that's going to happen, I want to get you turned on to in your journey, okay, of leg number two of the journey. Let's move down here, is the following. We need to stack energy. Now, if you want to go faster, if you want to create more change, then to do it, we have to have a more robust nervous system. This nervous system of ours has to work, all right? And so what we tend to do, like I said, is we think, man, I want to go faster, so we work harder, we try harder, we learn more. And it's all about, God, more of the same stuff, right? And the more we keep doing more of the same, and when we keep hitting these roadblocks, I've been there. A lot of people coming to us are there. It's like you're just trying to, what do? You just keep drinking more and more water and moving more and more and meditating more and more, more. You're going to soon run out of time, right? And so the solution really is that one of the reasons you may struggle to create change, motivation wise, one of the reasons you may struggle to keep change, as in you can get going for a while and then it tends to fall apart, is two things. Most people either burn out because they're trying to go too fast, or they blow up. And by that, I mean, rather than fizzling out and burning out, I mean, they create change and they seem to burn it to the ground. They seem to find ways to sabotage that and go back to square one. Now, this is not because you're fundamentally flawed. You're burning out because you're trying to move quicker than you can, and you're blowing up because you cannot cope with the change you've created. That is what's happening. And it's because we need a better scaffolding of a system. If you're going to put a massively fast engine in your old car, tiny little Metro I had when I first started, if I'm going to put a 4 liter engine in that Metro, I better put some decent brakes on it. I better put some suspension on it. Probably needs a new gearbox. I better build a stronger structure. And that is why people can't maintain change. It's why we get going and burn out because the structure isn't strong enough. And so, how do you improve that structure? Well, let's look at it. I've shared something similar before. There's three things. I'm trying to give you some value here. There's something called capacity, stressors, and perspective, right? Capacity is the charging of your battery. It's building a stronger system. Think of your energy charge. If you're going to go faster and get more change, then you need to charge up your energy accounts. And that's like physical, mental, emotional. I cover that a lot of places. Okay. It's how do I really stack up and charge up my battery? There's stacking of recovery, which we'll talk about. There's supplementation. There's specific habits, but it's how do I up the charge? All right. Stressors, if this is your accelerator, capacity, build your capacity. Stressors are the handbrake. Stressors are what is robbing me of energy. What is the stress, the chronic stress that as much as I charge my battery is robbing it back out? A lot of people are thinking, I need to do more energy. I need to get more energy. So I'm just going to do more energy things. But really, there's this stressor just draining it out. It's like putting £1 million in your bank account every day, but somebody withdrawing 1.1 million and just wasting it, burning it. It's like, I've still got minus 100,000 every day. Doesn't matter how much you put in if you keep taking more out. These are stressors. And they are the handbrake that we need to remove. And lastly, perspective is the way we look at things, which can either increase our capacity or reduce it. But if you want a strong nervous system, you need to think, how do I up my capacity? How do I reduce my stressors? How do I alter my perspective? And how do I continually do that? Now, the key here is when it comes to specification, most of us will start, and this is brilliant because I teach it with a few routines. We say, well, I've got an AM routine, PM routine. So I've got some sleep hygiene. I've got some things that help me sleep better. I've got morning routine. I do things in the morning that get me focused. Maybe I plan my day. And it's like, okay, I just rinse and repeat that for the rest of time. Now, when I work with people, I often say, hey, where's your morning routine at? You had someone in the office today talking about this towards the end. Where's your nighttime routine at? And they're like just been doing the same stuff over and over again for the last 5 years. And you're like, look, that ain't going to get you where you want to go. You're trying to create better results. You need better levels of energy. You can't just keep doing the same old. It's got limitations. You wouldn't go to the gym and just repeat your induction program for the rest of your life and expect to get better and better results. You'd know that at some point you'd stop seeing results. This is the same. And so, capacity wise, and how we top it up, we need to think differently to go to that next step. There's a couple of questions you can ask yourself, right? What season are you in? Personally, not nature, although we will come to that. What is my season right now? Are you in a period of stress? There's lots of stressful shit going on in your life. Are you burnt out? You've come off the back of some stress. You are burnt out. Some of you have messaged me, I'm off work, burnt out, yada, yada. So you're not like, oh, I'm in a period of stress. You're like, I'm burnt out now. They're different things. Are you in a period where you feel quite good, but you want to get creative? You've got ideas you're trying to like think. You're like, man, I need to create something. If you're an entrepreneur, that's a big thing. Are you in a period of time where you need to get shit done? You know exactly what you want. You've got the energy, and you're like, I need to get this done. I need to action and funnel my focus. These are different seasons, and they need different approaches. And this is what doesn't happen when we just have one approach. If you are in a season of stress, you should have a different setup to your day, your week, your supplementation than if you are in a season of burnout. There's tweaks there. I'll give you some examples in a second. If you're like, I've got none of that going on, maybe you're in a period in a season where you need to get stuff done, you would supplement differently again after the basics. Your meditation styles would change. The weekly structure would change because you're in get shit done mode. And these are seasons that need different approaches, as do the actual seasons. What gets you through summer will not get you through winter. Everyone feels great in summer. Sun's out. Oh, that's great. Winter, dark, short day. You should have a different approach. What works in summer don't work in winter. And spring, probably a different approach then. You probably want to clear out and let go and roll with the seasons. The point I'm trying to make is the generalist who gets stuck just does the same old shit every day of the week for the rest of time. Set some goals, be accountable, boom. The specification is what's going on in my life? And how do I structure myself? And that can come down to, and I'll show you some examples in a minute, in three things. The way you supplement, that's a big deal. The way you do what we would call weekly stacks. So rather than trying to just repeat the same thing every day, it's like actually you probably want to do different things here, an A and a B and a C, and you want to cycle through different things. Same with this, and you probably want to move out of morning routines, and you probably want an afternoon routine, especially if you're burnt out. You want an afternoon routine to happen. Huge. If you are stressed, there's probably some different things you should do in the afternoon. It's not just all morning and night. But the point I'm trying to make is it's always specification rather than generalization that's going to help you there. Can you see that? Can you see we need different approaches, which is why just random bits of content pulled together is never going to cut it for us. And so I can walk you through some examples of here's somebody who's stressed, here's what we would do. Here's somebody who's burnt out. Would that be useful? Here's what you might do differently here. Here's somebody who's going for a period where they need to be creative. Here's what we might do here. Because there needs to be different things that happen depending on where you're at. I hear you, Carol. I hear you. And so I will walk you through that. All right. However, before I walk you through that, just understand the difference. The second thing is always stresses. What's draining you? Now, that can be money issues, relationships issues, values clashes is a big one. If you have really a clash of values with people in your life, your workplace, your team, your family, your friends, that's a chronic stressor. That's one of Maslach's burnout triggers, for example. This value clashes. You could have a lack of reward in your life. Reward can be, not just money, it can be appreciation from people, respect, time. It's usually what you seek. And so you can be undervalued and feel a lack of reward in your work. You feel underpaid. But you can also feel underacknowledged. At home, you can feel unappreciated. It's like, what am I craving? Is it time? And if you don't feel you're getting that reward for your efforts, that chronically happening will fry your nervous system. So will value clashes fry your nervous system. So will a third thing, lack of control. If you feel like you have a lack of control in your life, in the direction it's going, in situations, that can be a massive chronic stressor for people. Ironically, somebody who really needs control, if that's you, you micromanage teams, you need to know everything, you'll know. You've got kids you try and over control, you'll know that you can't ever feel in control of those things, and that burns you out. So there can be lack of reward, values clashes, lack of control. Overworking is one, but very rare. In most of the people I deal with, it's not overworking, it's working on the wrong stuff. Just doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. Even in personal development, I'm like, that's probably not really beneficial for you. Just adding more and more shit to their plate. Same in work. It's like, why are you doing that? You're just doing the wrong stuff. You don't need to be doing that. You're in this role. Unfair treatment is a chronic stressor. Who can relate to some of these? Lack of community, big one. Person who came to my office today was like, yeah, I'm burnt out. And they thought we were going to go over burnout, breathing, and central nervous system work. Because that was their answer. Hit the accelerator, do more. Well, I need to do some breathing, I need to do some stuff. Brilliant person, great client of mine who's just started. And I was like, yeah, great. Tell me what's going on. What's some of the biggest stresses in your life? And then we started talking about this. And he was, oh my God. This makes perfect sense. I'm always trying to fix the symptom of feeling burnt out, trying to fix how I feel. But what's driving it is the fact I'm micromanaging, I'm doing this, and there's values clashing, there's lack of control. And that's what we call, listen very carefully, an unlocking move. An unlocking move takes the handbrake off so you can go faster. And I say that because a lot of the symptoms we experience are symptoms. The lack of motivation, the frustration, all this stuff, they're symptoms. It's like, what's the root cause of the symptom? And for a lot of people, it's stressors. And we sit back and because we haven't got the energy to deal with the stressor, we avoid it. And so because we avoid it, it grows. And as it grows and we sit there, it becomes more insurmountable. And this sitting back and letting the stressors happen to us robs us of all our capacity. It doesn't matter how much more we do to top it up. This is happening. And so one thing you need to think of and give you an insight, in everyone we work with, we find an unlocking move. We may not tell them what that unlocking move is, but we find one. And it can be any of these triggers. It can be high cognitive load, a big one for most people. High cognitive load is your brain has so much storage. And if you're constantly storing information in your brain, I'll give you some examples, it becomes maxed out. And high cognitive load makes you distracted. High cognitive load makes you overwhelmed. High cognitive load increases stress. High cognitive load blocks performance. And it's usually through a couple of things. Things that are unfinished, decisions that are unmade. Your brain is not for storing information. Your brain is for focusing and creating on what's most valuable for you. And if all we do is have a list of things as long as our arm that haven't been finished, a list of decisions we've avoided, a list of stresses we haven't dealt with, they build up, they build up. It's death by a thousand paper cuts. And so I'm trying to give you an insight in here into how we get such great results, which I'll probably share some of those with you as well, and say, okay, yes, it's about upping your capacity. I'll show you that. But we always highlight an unlocking move and we attack it with people. And by moving towards it, you dissipate a lot of its energy. But as you solve it, because you will, it's like choosing your hard. It's hard to sit back. It's hard to solve it, shall I say? Everyone's stresses are hard to solve. But it's also hard to sit back and just let them keep happening. It's really hard to go about life unfit, overweight, and unhealthy. Really hard. It's really hard to actually get up and change that. But one hard will make you better and stronger and improve your life, and one hard will take you the other direction. You got to choose your hard. And so the unlocking move for us is, what is that one big thing? If we stop, if we take it out, it releases the handbrake. And now they're moving faster. And that's massive. So consider, what is my unlocking move? And we always guide people through that early on, even if they realize it or not. That's something we're trying to figure out. The third thing for your energy stacking is obviously perspective. And if you look at perspective, there's a few things. Well, I won't cover all of them, but it's mindset based. And there's a few that are going to hold you back and increase stress that are proven. Okay. So make a note of these if you can, or just note which one jumps out to you. You know, the need for control and perfection. If you have a need, it's the key word for control and perfection. It will drive your stress levels insane. Like, it's a big one. Maybe that's not you, but if it's there, it needs shifting. The second one is fear of discomfort and failure. That's a common one. So, oh, this is hard. We fear hard. We fear failure, so we don't move forward. And the more we fear discomfort and failure, the more we avoid it, the more we hold back, the more stress we experience. Failing at something is not particularly stressful. Sitting thinking about failing is pretty stressful. I've done things And you think, that has not worked. I've had some quite big failures in my life that have cost me things, but I've also sat back but they're easy to recover from. I've also sat back and imagined failure and avoided going after what I want. And that's felt much more stressful. So there's two common ones. The third one that can increase your stress, which is common, think about this if it's you, is determining your worth by your achievements. I wrote about this on Instagram, just a little share, because the amount of people who say to me, "Oh, you must be doing well because you've got new offices and stuff like that." I was like, I was doing well when I had a tiny office space. Society kind of often assesses so-called material success as you must be doing well, and not material success as you must not be doing well. But I wrote about how I determine my success by the impact we have in our work, the quality and quantity of the results we produce, the fact that I get to pick my kids up and drop them off every day from school, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 20 past three. That's how I determine my success. Key things like that. The point I'm making is if you always determine your worth by what you have and what you achieve, if that's your worth as a person is attached to that, you're always worried that these achievements are going to disappear, or if they don't make them, if they don't happen, oh, I'm just not worth much. It's so common in the high performer because it gets you driven and motivated. So yeah, I need to be, you would tie our worth to the money they make, the things they do. But when it's not there, oh, I'm rubbish, I'm a failure. They're better than me because they're doing more, and it drives stress. It's not a useful thing your worth is determined by your achievements. And the last one, which may be you, is, do you want the immediate results? If you want immediate results from everything you do, you will live a very stressed life because high performance and big changes don't yield immediate results. They build up over time. And if you need them, you'll always be bouncing from thing to thing. And so from an energy perspective, think what am I the controller? God, I fear failure so much, so I don't take the moves I need to take. Do I often determine my own self-worth by the achievements and things I produce, whether material or not? Do I often need results immediately? Because highlight one of them. Highlight what you're most common to experience and think, okay, now I'm getting an idea of my energy here. If I get an idea of what my biggest stressor is, if I get an idea of what my biggest perspective issue is, and I learn to stack my energy, if you do those three things across a month, you'll make massive progress. Far more progress than adding a bit more breathing and a bit more water. And it'll blow that out of the water, trust me. And so if you're looking at energy, and I'll show you some different seasonal stuff in a minute, think, what season am I in? What's going on in my energy right now? What season is it? Now, what tweaks do I need to make based on that to my way of life? I can help you with that in a second. What's my stressor? So what's my unlocking move? What mindset is holding me back the most in my perspective? Can you see those three things that if you took from this session now, I thought, right, I'm gonna try and implement that. It's not easy to go do, but if like that's me being more specific. And I will show you some examples of possible, just a couple of differences. What I'll do is I'll show you a couple of differences in what we do. Do you have any questions about that, just quickly? And what are you hearing me say out of interest before I share this? Now, people often try and take photos of this. And like, I'm gonna take a photo and then I've got the whole protocol, but it's not quite how it works. We couldn't do that, give you the whole protocol. But I'll give you, these are just examples. You can't, supplementation is specific to every individual for the most part. But I'll make a few key distinctions. So someone who's burnt out, okay, we're looking a little bit adaptogens and things like that. We're trying to support with L-theanine, something useful to plug in. Um, but everything you do from a breathing standpoint early on will be about calming your system. So you avoid like the Wim Hof style breathing at that point. I love that kind of stuff, but not necessarily useful first thing in the morning for most people, all right, through experience. And these are examples. But look, there's afternoon stuff. Now, not everyone can do this. Not everyone can go and have, a weighted blanket session or a nap in their day. I completely get that. That's not what we say what you have to do. We're giving you an example. We actually build this out with people. Because like your afternoon stuff, again, you need to do a few things there. You need to like make a big effort to get your nervous system deactivating a little bit. B complex is always big for most people. Again, I can't recommend that to you. I don't know you, but it's quite crucial. All right. Evening, if you're looking at different stuff, you always supplement with magnesium if you're burnt out, always supplement with zinc. Things like Epsom salt baths, things like that. Again, it might not be relevant, but we're trying to really reduce nervous system activity, okay, from a daily basis. But if you flick through and look at weekly, there's different stuff. So everyone knows about digital detoxing, but this is slightly different. There's different morning, afternoon, evening style stuff going on. There's neurofeedback sessions in there for specific reasons. There's kind of yoga style sessions in there. And you wouldn't do this every week. You would cycle it and make it cyclical. There's different styles of sauna and how you deal with it post sauna, right? And there's different recovery stack options. But somebody who's stressed, you'll notice heavy, 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 much smaller protocols because they're busier, they're stressed. And again, this isn't what it has to look like. But really, we shift B complex to the morning for reasons I'm not going to explain now. We focus a lot more in mentally. So journaling changes, and we're focusing on three, like an individual strengths. Box breathing is much different to the other style of breathing we were using in burnout stuff, right? Adaptogen smoothies are big because adaptogens are wonderful things that help your nervous system deal with stress for the most part. So, like, we load up on different things like adaptogen smoothies at the minute. There's cold exposure in the afternoon rather than at night. Weekly practices change immensely across weighted blanket sessions and different things. But the protocol's different, is what I'm trying to say. And I could even show you even more different ones. If you're looking at creativity, which is a big one, you'd be looking at completely different protocols across your week. You meditate in a different style. You do much different weekly stacking activities. If you're looking at somebody who's got a gut health issue, we're manipulating that very differently. If you're looking at someone who's trying to get their shit done, the routines are much smaller. The breathing is different again. If you're looking at somebody who's on a general protocol, much different. You know, there's all these different protocols depending on what you need, is what I'm trying to say. And so what often changes is the style of supplementation, the style of breathing, the style of sleep routine, because it has to become specific to the individual's needs. And so I just showing you that to be like, there has to be differences, and the devil's in the detail. There's a lot the same in those two because they're very similar things, but they're different, and the differences are quite key. Like I said, if I showed you the creativity protocol, you go, oh, right, that's like way different. You supplement in a completely different way. Those two are quite similar, but I want you to see that. Does that make a little bit of sense? What is the root of my burnout? Yeah, good question. So, what do you hear me say about energy as a whole? Give me that. What are you hearing me say before we get into flow and spend a solid 15, 20 minutes on flow states and focus and all the rest of it? Give me like one key takeaway from the whole of that. Oh, I thought I'd lost that. I hate this new Zoom. Come on, go first. So, what is the root of burnout? Look where you're giving it away. What do you mean by feel it and change it? You can control it 100%. You need to build up energy. Yeah. Find the stressors. Yes. What needs to change? Individual plan. I like that, Alison. What needs to change for you? Energy is ebb and flow depending on what's going on. That's a brilliant comment. I need to think about what season I'm in. Brilliant. These are the kind of things I'm trying to get across. What season you're in, energy different. What are your individual stress triggers rather than just I need to just get through this shit. I hear that all the time in busy people. They can't execute because they haven't got time, but they don't do anything to save themselves time because they're always caught up in the same stuff. You think of primary stresses. Brilliant. Where I am at and what I need. I like it. So if you look at key two, let's look at this real quick. Thought I'd lost my pen for a moment there. This is one everyone likes, but it's flow. At some point, the key to going faster is and this is important, is not finding more time. Everyone I speak to wants more time. Who doesn't want more time, you know? And it's like we try and find more time. We try and block out more time. And your time gets short, your focus gets stretched. So you work harder, you time block out more time in your day, you plan, you get the to-do list, you create the structure. And some days it's great, and sometimes it's not. It's not more time. I want you to etch it into your mind that high performance is actually more about the quality of energy and focus you bring to your time that makes the biggest difference. My life is far more demanding now than it was 12 years ago. Far more demanding. Three kids, a business that's grown immensely in the last 10 years, other things going on, stressors, demands on my time from family, parents, whatever it may be. Now I have more structure in there. But my life is way more demanding, yet it's nowhere near as stressful. And I had felt like I had less time all that time ago, but that's because my energy was all over the shop and my focus was non-existent. And so the only answer is I need more time. The quality of energy and focus you bring to your time will be the difference maker when it comes to high performance. And that's why to-do lists and time blocking is all great. But if you show up to that window of time, just potlucking it on what you get done, energy and focus wise, you'll be inconsistent. Some days will be great, some days will be non-existent, and you won't get anywhere. So the solution is not more time blocking and not more time management and all that stuff. The key is accessing flow consistently on demand. And flow states are not as common as people think. Flow is your brain at its best. Flow is your brain working on levels that you cannot imagine. Flow is your brain operating at 500% or 500 times increase in productivity, 300 times increase in creativity, three times the amount of empathy, three times the amount of cooperation. Not through effort, not through, I'm going to force this. It takes effort, but truly through understanding how to harness your brain's focus. Flow is the ultimate cheat code. Your meaning and purpose triples again. It's all tripling in flow. Like you'll feel like that's the most meaningful use of my time. And that's because a few things happen. I've shared this everywhere. It's not my acronym. I think it's Flow Research, my Flow Genome, which is characterized by STIR, meaning you become selfless when you're in a flow state. Your prefrontal cortex dies down and you're not critiquing yourself. You're not like, oh God, how do I? You're in the zone, as they call it. You're not thinking. That part's died down. You're immersed in the moment. There's none of you getting in the way. The biggest thing you can do for your life is get out the way of it. mentally. The modern world is so stuck here. It looks like this, doesn't it? We're critiquing and thinking and weighing up. And should I say that? Shouldn't I say this? We're always in our head. And you can't perform at your best in your head. Try having sex stuck in your head. That sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying? Try playing a sport when you're just constantly stuck in your head. Try creating something constantly stuck in your head. Try and have a good conversation, just thinking about what you're saying all the time. The things that are great are when we go offline, we become selfless. The bloody doubt, all that stuff dissipates. T is timeless, meaning time distorts in flow. You know, you can be sat in a flow state with a friend, common place to get it, and you can be like, oh my God, it felt like we were here 10 minutes. We've been here 3 hours, been here 3 hours. Can you believe that? 3 hours. Time flies, time flies. You weren't watching the clock, flow state. Also, it's been shown to slow time down, but we won't talk about that. E is effortless. It doesn't mean you sit there going, oh, my life's so effortless. But the effort you're making feels effortless. You feel like you got more in the tank. You're like, man, this feels good. This effort feels good. Not, oh, this effort feels such a drag. And richness, your senses dial up and you have these wonderful experiences, which is why they related flow states to mystical experiences. And a lot of people who think they're having a mystical experience are just having a flow state. Their brain's operating on such a level, they're having a really rich experience. Your senses are pulling all this information in and it overloads your brain and it's like, it must be from God or something. That happens a lot. To everyone, possibly. It's like, wow, I had this moment. It's like your brain was operating on that level. Imagine being able to access that when you wanted. Imagine how much you would get done. Imagine the quality of your moments to access that state. And so it's stir and it has a few things. It has a cycle. We're not going to cover that tonight. A consistent cycle. If you understand it, you can access flow. But one of the big things is triggers. There's things that trigger people into flow, like proven triggers that alter your brain chemistry, right? Now, people are all the flow triggers work for everybody, but there's some people are more prone to. Okay, so what flow mapping is paying attention to what are the triggers that dial you in. And if you can lean into those triggers and understand them, and you can leverage them, you don't have those days where you go, today was a great day, I was out in my head, or this moment, you know, I got, wow, in that meeting, I was in the zone, or I was getting that work hammered out, oh, I just got so much done, or I was in the gym and it felt great. Those moments don't become accidental. I go into workplaces a lot and people are like, yeah, I've had that, but you can't say why. You don't know how. It's just one of those days, things went right. No, it wasn't one of those days. Oh, and today was one of those days it all went wrong. No, there's clues. And so the way I would teach this to people, I've done a free training on this. Again, we don't show all of the stuff in free training because it takes coaching. But I get people to map their days is a good start, you know, and just think, okay, if you had to map a few colors and red was when you felt completely crap and distracted and unfocused and couldn't get with it. And if you like, oh, I'm red there, and amber was like, you know, neither here or there, and green was like, wow, I wasn't aware, but I was like in the zone. I was all over it, right? If you map your week, you might find something. You might find that there's hardly happening at all. And if that's hardly happening at all, there's a bit of an overhaul that needs to happen. You might find, holy shit, there's certain things and certain times that I would just get into flow. And then you can think, well, what's happening there? And you can go through the list of triggers and say, you know, this was there, this was there, this was there. God, what if I learn to build that in to my day when I need it? And then I can consistently access these states intentionally. Holy shit. Imagine that. Imagine being able to go, I know how to not take a nootropic, which are wonderful. People are like, oh, just get a nootropic, mate. A lot of the bros online. Nootropic, you know, yeah, whatever, whoa, low, and you don't know what's half people don't know what's in it. It's my job to know neurochemistry and how things interact. Great. But that's not going to make up for a lack of attention. It's not going to make up anywhere near a big as jump as knowing the triggers psychologically, socially that get you into flow. And so you can map your week and go, right, what was present? And we teach people that all the time now in flow mapping. We teach them different ways to do it, but we've only got short time here. And it's like, what triggers are present? You might coach people on that. And there's some things that drive flow. In fact, I'll bring them up on screen just so you can see the triggers. Is that making sense like that, by the way, to try and to see, like get to know your shit. And that is specification. Generalization is just learn to focus. Specialization is, okay, what makes you focus? Everyone's different. And you'll see now why I mean that. Um, when I share this screen, these aren't my flow triggers, by the way. You know, it's not as if I'm sat here going, oh, I invented these. You know, generally Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's style of flow triggers. Oh my God, if I could learn how to use Zoom, everyone would be happy, I'm sure. So look, there's psychological triggers. Now I'll explain some of this in a bit, but the psychological triggers, some people love these, some people don't, but they work for everybody. But there's something called the challenge to skills ratio. So I'll draw it after this, but think of lifting a weight. Okay, you've got your challenge level and your skill level in everything. And pick a weight, the challenge. Say you think I want to be strong, so I'm gonna pick the heaviest weight up in my gym, and you try and lift it. Excuse me, and you go, I can't lift it. Right? The challenge was too hard for your skills. So you don't improve, you don't get better. The other thing is you don't become immersed in the moment. Because flow really is about being 100% immersed in the moment at the expense of all else. I should have said that. That's what it is. It's I'm so immersed in this, everything else has dissipated. Right? And you'll realize a lot of bad things, non-useful things get you in that state. And we call that inaccurate flow. Computer games, gambling, you'll see all these things that get people in flow states that maybe aren't necessarily that useful are leveraging a lot of flow triggers. But challenge to skill ratio is if your challenge is too hard for your skill level, you won't engage. You'll be overwhelmed and anxious. If the challenge is too low for your skill level, you won't be engaged. You'll be unmotivated and bored. When the challenge slightly outweighs your skill level, you'll be engaged in the moment and you'll perform at your best. That's lifting a weight that's heavy, but you can lift it and it's making you stronger. So you feel more motivated for doing it. Not one that you just lift up and down and say, this is easy, not one you can't lift at all. Now, you need to learn to leverage that. We teach that a lot in your day. That's why people are unmotivated. It's why people procrastinate. It's because their challenge to skills ratios are off. And you've got to learn to decrease the challenge and raise your skills. It's a really useful thing. If you learn how to do that, your procrastination will dissipate. Clear goals and immediate feedback. You know, and you got to ask yourself, you know, do you perform better with short-term goals and quicker feedback? Do you get frustrated when feedback is slow? Like if you're somebody who needs to know they're doing well and needs feedback and you're not getting it and you're not building it in, you will struggle. So if you're somebody who's highly prone to needing feedback and to know where you're at in the process and you know and to having KPIs and things like that in your job or your boss feeding to you, you know, that quicker you get feedback, the quicker you get in flow. Trust me on that. And so if you're someone who's like, actually, you know what, when I look at my flow mapping, this is the key. Don't guess on this stuff. Map your week as it happens and say, what was happening there? You might go, bloody hell, I had quite a clear goal for that afternoon. And it was actually within my challenge level. And I was getting quite good feedback, like, you know, as I was doing it. Bloody hell, like I need to leverage that more. Do you struggle with high levels of distraction? When you look at your red zones, you're like, God, I was distracted. I was on my phone a lot. I was kind of like having in the office and they were sort of like interrupting me every 5 minutes because I've got no boundaries. Was I at home, you know, with my kids and thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have flow there? But I was thinking about work and, you know, I was still thinking about that thing. I logged into my email, so I couldn't get into the zone. You notice in your green zones, you're probably not distracted. So you may go, actually, how do I do that? How do I make myself less distracted there? You may autonomy and intrinsic motivation is freedom of choice. And I really want to do this thing intrinsically, just to do it. So do you get in flow when you have control over how you do things? And do you struggle to get in flow when you don't have control? So that's not a big deal for some people. Some people don't want too much autonomy. Some employees just want to be told how to do it, just rock up and go. Some employees, you like, they need a little bit of autonomy, they need choice. And I see that a lot in coaching. Some people just don't want autonomy because they're overwhelmed and they're fed up with choosing. But some people, if you say, I think you need to do this, will often go, well, no, I was thinking that, they have to have that autonomy. So you may present them a couple of choices that you know either one of them is good. So you let them choose, and now it's their idea. But are you in your green zones? Are you doing something you want to do? Think of that. In your red zones, you're doing shit you don't want to do. You've got no choice there. Now, we can't all choose and do what we want to do on times. But you might say, well, how can I leverage more autonomy? How can I make myself more intrinsically motivated? Can I sell myself on the benefits? These are how you roll it in. Novelty, complexity, unpredictability, drive people into flow. Do you thrive in new challenges? You get bored of repetition. Do you need novelty? Novelty drives your attention into the now. Do you need to mix things up a bit? Has your life become the same old routines, meals, drinks, routine? And you're like, oh my God, when it's the same, your brain stops paying attention because it's boring. When it's novel, they're different. So do you need novel environments? Do you need to work in a different environment? Drive a different way? Do you use somebody who thrives in new challenges? If so, you might notice in your green area, you were like, this is new, this is challenging. And in your red areas, like same old shit day after day. Do you hate novelty? And again, somebody who's burnt out and stressed, very often I try and avoid huge amounts of novelty with them to start with because they're like, oh my God, novelty just sparks my burnout even more. And that's why you got to know what you're doing with these things. But look at green and red and just think, what's going on? Social triggers, shared goals. Are you somebody who gets really in flow socially? Do you perform well in groups? Or do groups cause you issues? You may want to figure out why that is, but the point I'm trying to make is if you know that shit, when I was in my green zone, we were like really working together as a team, and what was happening there? Were you all working on one thing? Or were you like, no, I was isolated, I removed distraction, I was cracking on. But shared goals and being in high trust situations trigger flow. So in your red zones, you may say, God, I'm part of this thing. We never know what's going on as a team or my family. We're on the different pages all the time. I just don't trust my surroundings and my people. And that's why I'm in red. You can start figuring out why these red zones are happening, why these green zones are happening. Concentration as a group is, when everyone around you is fully immersed on the same thing. Think of a gig. We're all immersed on the person at the front, same music, same stuff, big group flow, great energy. If you're like, oh God, I hate Bruce Springsteen. Why am I here watching this? Bloody hell. I prefer like Eminem. Oh, bloody hell. I don't want to be here. You get distracted. You're not intrinsically motivated, etc., etc. Close listening. That's a big one. If when you're in green, do you realize you were listening and attentive? When you're in red, were you just bored and distracted? These things, when you learn what your triggers, what's happening, you can start leveraging them. Environmental stuff is, high risk, high stakes. And these are real oversimplifications of triggers because I want it to be, you know, useful as opposed to, hey, let's get really deep on each one. But high risk, some people like love risk. Some of you are really risk averse. And if you take a risk averse person and try and make them take more risks, they usually shut down. But if you take somebody who's quite high risk, like, and then you try and close them down a bit, it has the opposite effect. I'm somebody who's like, right, I need to like, the biggest risks you can have are risk to reputation, risk to finances. This is what they study, risk to health. If you're in a situation where there's a risk to your physical health or risk to your finances or risk to your reputation, it will drive you to focus better than you ever have in some people. In others, that is a sign to like, oh my God, I'm shutting my life down. I can't go. I can't get into flow. The challenge is too high. And it's rich sensory environments. And you might want to look at your green and your red when you map it and look at these triggers. And if you want the triggers, let's reach out and I'll send you that document there. And you may say, you know what? Actually, I'm red everywhere and I've got none of this, you know? Or you might go, shit, there's some green zones there, and here's why that happened. You may notice that you go to the gym and you're in the green zone. And that may be because you don't take your phone in there and you've got a plan and you're pushing yourself. Huh. You might be in the red zone in the gym because you noticed you're still trying to work on the fucking leg press, you know, near Facebook. You're completely distracted. You don't want to be there. Like you can leverage this stuff, you know, and it's so important to know that there's levels of focus beyond just trying to focus and trying to focus hard. Your brain has all these little triggers that if you leverage and you understand how to use them, you can stop having accidental great focus days and you can start having consistent, actively great focus days. And that is huge. So with flow triggers, I would say, hey, map out green, the simple, look at that list and think what was here. Now, with people, what I tend to do is what we certainly have tried to do, and we still do with some people, is go, okay, if we know what your flow proneness is what we'd call it, we start trying to prime certain red areas with some of your flow triggers. We start creating little priming rituals. We start to leverage your triggers more. We start to leverage your flow activities because you'll have some that get you into flow until we start building this life of flow. And that isn't by going, oh, I'm so passive, I don't care about life. It's by leveraging your brain's triggers to really dial you in. Now, I will say to people, imagine how great your career will be. Imagine how great your business will be. I see so many people in business who just think the answer to better business is, and this is always ones who are struggling, is just like more information and doing more, not how they do it. I'm like, imagine your whole team or you having access to flow states and having the nervous system to allow it and to withstand it, and your energy in such a good place that you're taking all this energy and you're harnessing it into the now consistently. And imagine you can get group flow as a team. And imagine that everyone's operating at periods of the day or 300% increases and 500 times increases in focus and creativity. Imagine that. And then you see why there's some people who just get so much done and enjoy it in such less time. And they're able to switch off from work because when they're at home, they leverage flow triggers and they're so immersed in their day and their family. That's not a wish. That is really, really possible when you understand flow. That's not really possible when you're just generically listening to personal development stuff. You know, it's not going to happen. And I mean, if you're not invested, if you're an academy, for example, you're going to build some very good green zones. The next step, you'll be understanding flow without doubt eventually. If you're doing nothing, you're just searching around and you're trying to positive self-talk and understand there's a whole level beyond that. And so what we do with people, really, when you think about it, in high performance mind, for example, which is what I'm talking about, is we try and shift the mindset to one of a high performer, you know, investment minded. You matter, quality of energy and focus, specification. You see those switches, switch to that style of thinking. It's build a mission. I'm not going to cover it because I'll be here for another 40 minutes, but it gets super clear. And if you're like, I don't have a mission, I don't really have an idea of what I want this year. I don't really have an idea what I want out of this season of my life. I haven't put anything down. I'm not stretching myself. I'm not clear on what my values are. I'm not clear on what's meaningful to me. I'm not clear on how I want my life to look, what kind of impact I want to make, how much I want to work, whatever it is. Then you're going to struggle because flow just really needs clear goals. So we all start with mission building, but when I cover that, people get bored because they're like, ah, yeah, 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 goal setting. It's not that, but that's generally what happens. But then if you stack it, if you get a clear mission, you stack your energy so your nervous system is so robust and you build in specification and you know what season you're in and you adapt your protocols to the season you're in. And then you leverage your own flow triggers and you map that out and you plug it in. All of a sudden you're like, shit the bed, as my brother would say. I'm flying. And that is how you create massive success in 90 days. And that is how you can really, really, really put yourself on another level from a performance perspective. Has this made sense? Has this been useful? I'd rather do some Q&A than cover mission building. You can ask me absolutely anything. What I will say is this. I've recorded this to give away, to be honest. People will say, why do you record free trainings? And I'm really transparent. And I'm like, look, I record free trainings because I'm trying to build trust and relationships with people that eventually I want to work with us. I know that free trainings do not change jack shit, as do everyone else on the planet. But I hope that I give you insights that you can go plug in. And I hope you say, you know what? How do we work with these people? If not now, but eventually, how do we work with these people? You know, you'll see on Facebook next week, we're opening up spots in High Performance Mind. And you can get started 90 days for 1197, right? You can get started on our academy for 3 months. What's that work out? I can't remember what it is now. 297 is it? 99 a month academy. Boom, boom, boom. Over 3 payments. You can get started in academy where we do the first journey for £99 a month. You get started in High Performance Mind for 1,197. And that, not a month, that can be broken up. But we walk through all this stuff. We walk through the flow mapping. We walk you through the blueprint. We create bespoke blueprints. We set your goals with you. You get contact. So you're going to see that all over Facebook next week. I would 100% recommend, and I mean this, if you are remotely interested in what we've covered tonight, that you reach out and you say, I'm really interested in that. How does it look, Si? What would we do? Ask some questions. There's no hard sell of Unbreakable. We want happy money, not miserable, forced to buy something money. But I would 100% recommend over the next day, tonight, say, I'm really interested. In fact, drop us a line and we can send you a PDF with either our academy information or our High Performance Mind information. Pricing, structure, what happens. In fact, that's what I would do. Drop us a line and say, I'm interested in the academy. I'm interested in High Performance Mind. Send you the PDF and we'll follow you up the next day. Do you have a chance to look? What was it? We can book a call to talk through it. Whatever you want, But they're well worth it, trust me. The PDF's got loads of results on it as well, testimonials, video stuff now as well. So I'd 100% recommend that, just while I'm waiting for some questions. My reaction, I'm red and green zones, I how I react to the environment I find myself and other people in. Um, Possibly, possibly. You'd say you need to upskill in dealing with other people, wouldn't you? If that's the case. It means ask me a question about that if you want help with that. If that's an observation, um, you might want to consider your perspective. If you cannot change your environment, change the way you look at them. If you can change them, change them. Um, my primary goals currently are improved health and happiness. I like that. Yeah, we will send out a replay. So this is your chance to ask any questions. You'll notice we don't. Um, oh, happy birthday, brilliant! Thanks for being here. Drop me a message tonight, and we'll just drop the message tonight, and we'll then do it tomorrow. The problem is, if you don't drop a message tonight, it's going to get swallowed up in our inbox. If it's done tonight, I can go cool and note it for people. Um, you know what I mean? But ask me some questions because you notice we're not doing any 5-day reboots for a while because it's summer and people generally don't finish them. So we always have a bit of time off in the summer and we try and deliver a lot of different things. But I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but it has to be a question for the next 5-6 minutes. Going to definitely do the flow mapping. Brilliant. Love it, Michaela. You're flying. I love seeing your progress. Finding my happiness and direction as a moment role isn't as needed now, children age. Man, that's great. What a observation. And that is, who am I? Where am I going? Time to reinvent, isn't it? It's so common. We fulfill these roles and then we're not needed in these roles. I work with people who sell their businesses sometimes, retire, do other things, people who lose jobs, move on. Same thing. People who've lost people. And it's like, who am I? Where am I going? This identity I used to have no longer fits. And there's a really real skill to that. So you need to get into mission building and figuring shit out. Who am I? Where am I going? What am I about now? What's the next step for me? A lot of people will go, you're not saying this, which is what I like. A lot of people go, yeah, yeah, I need to work on some movement and hydration, which is all important. I love that stuff. Yeah, we teach it all the time. But like we say in academy, it's like figuring out who you are and where you're going. Because a lot of the symptoms people have about overwhelm and that is a purpose issue. You don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what life's about anymore. And so the symptoms of that situation are fear and worry and anxiety and stress and low mood. Solve the root cause, purpose. So I like what you're doing. That's where to start. Really, really good. Um, what's the first step in reclaiming your energy? Depends where you're at. Um, you know, depends where you're at. And for most people, if you've got none of the capacity stuff, jump in on that. I will say that, get some general energy. If you're anyone, if you're anyone who has no rituals around at all, we have a great document called something stress and something else. I should know I created it, but we give it away. It's like a free video and it gives you some ideas on what to plug into your day. So if you're somebody who has no energy rituals, um, if you are somebody who has no energy rituals, then that is worth it. But if you're somebody who's got energy rituals and you say, oh, yeah, I'll look at that, you are going back. You are going back and you are going back to something that's not going to help you. You're doing that thing here where you go back. I see that all the time. Just going back to the same old shit, recircling, more information about the same stuff. You know, don't do that. So if you're somebody who's got no rituals, ask me, drop us a WhatsApp, and I'll get Amber, who works with me, to send across the energy. Say, hey, can I have the energy stacking thing? And we'll send it across. It's free. I didn't think I need to reinvent myself. Yeah, yeah. I've been training our team that take what we call sales calls. People who say, I'm really interested in your program. I know how much it is. I want to talk to you. And I say, okay. And one of the questions I always get my team to ask in the most ethical way is, where are you at? What are you struggling with? People say what they're struggling with. Where do you want to be? I really want to be here. And so it's okay. You want to be here, but you're struggling with this. Yeah. How long have you been trying to get to where you want to go? People say, oh, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, you know? Oh, God, for ages. Okay. Do you know how to solve that problem? Not really. That's why I'm asking you. Okay. How long are you willing to stay where you are? People, it's like, oh, what direct question. What do you mean? Well, how long are you willing to stay there? Because there's a cost of inaction. You're not figuring it out yourself. You've been trying to figure it out for years, yet you still want to take action on something that could help you. How long are you willing to stay stuck? That's a choice. So shit. People are like, oh my God, it's a real light bulb moment. Most people say, yeah, because human beings are great, great justifiers, aren't we? We're always going to figure it out eventually. We'll always know what we're doing. We always have all the answers. And then you say, well, does your life look like you want it to look? Not really. How are you getting any closer to what you want? No. Well, you don't have the answers. You don't just admit it. I know I have to put my hand up sometimes and say, I can't solve this problem we've got. I need some help. Hey, you know how to solve it. I just drop my ego and listen. So I think it's a good question. How long are you willing to stay where you're at? How long are you willing not to reinvent? How long are you going to stay here before you go, shit, I need to reinvent? I need to do something. At what point do you advise people to move from academy to high performance? Good question, Kate. It depends. And what I would suggest is you reach out, you book a call, and there's probably people on here who go, yeah, we've spoken. I'm like, yeah, I think you're not really wanting to do that yet. But there's not a specific time frame. Some people come into academy, do 30 days, and say, you know what? I like that high performance mind thing. We say, yeah, come on in. It's not like you have to be at a certain point. Some people just come straight into high performance mind. Some people are in academy for 9 months. Some people will never go into high performance mind. Yeah. So it's no like, oh, at this point you're ready. It's like, what are your goals? What help do you need? Can we help you? And if we can help you, we'll say, come on in to High Performance Mind. If we can't help you, and I think Academy will help you better, then ethically, I'll say stay in Academy. Because as a coach, you just want people in the right place that will make the biggest difference to them. Seriously, it's like I can look through a 5 day, it's the same thing. I think you probably you'd benefit from Academy, you'd benefit, oh God, you'd really benefit from Academy. And you really hope those people move into it. You can't make it happen. You really hope. You're like, God, I wish you'd do it. You've done a couple of 5 days. I wish you'd do it. Not because I want your money, because we don't need it, but because I just know it's going to change your life. No, it's going to stop you coming back and having this conversation with me. I know it's going to make a massive difference. And there's some people you think, you're not good, you're not fit for it at all, and you think, okay, please don't come in here, and you're as nice as you can about that. Am I in flow now? Probably not now you've asked me. You may have been getting to flow about recognizing it. Yeah. Now imagine if you got trained on it, recognized it, knew how to plug in the triggers, knew how to make them practical, and you just could do that all the time. Imagine how different your life would be if you could actually understand it to a level that you could implement it so seamlessly. You know? Can you give another example of something to trigger my flow? Um, in what way? What are you looking for? What are you asking me? I'm in the process of uninventing myself. Well, no, you're in the process of dropping old shit, but I'll give you a bit of advice here. Most people spend so much time trying to chop away at what they don't like rather than trying to build what they do. Who was it? Seneca, Aristotle, Socrates, Socrates, who said, the secret to change is to take your energy from fighting the old to building the new. And what you need to do is focus on building the new. You're too focused on trying to fix all this shit. But much like, what does Alan Watts say? Muddied water is best cleared by leaving alone. People now are so obsessed with working on their shit rather than building stuff. We're always trying to do this before we do that. Honestly, you need to get on the path to building what you want. And as you're doing that, things will come up that you need to work on. But I never think, oh, I need to work on that before I do that. Don't do that. You'll waste your time, you'll waste your energy. I know what you're trying to say, but you will. And I've spoken to you a few times, so I wanted to point that out. You can roll into Academy whenever you like. We are opening up the chance to come in on Monday. Bank holiday Monday. Worst ever week to open up spaces to something, but we are opening it up. You'll see it everywhere. But Giles, if you want to reach out on WhatsApp and say, I'm really interested in Academy, Si, what's the crack? And I'll say, yeah, Giles, here's a document. Or Amber will. What do you think? And you'll say, that looks really good. And you'll ask some questions and you'll either come in or you won't. Really nice. But I would ask and get the full details. I don't want to stay stuck where I am. The quicker I heal, move forward and be better. I love that, Caroline. I need my self-belief rebooted. I infuse them at times and life drags me down. Well, we're still here, aren't we? But I'll keep covering these. Um, but that's going to happen for everyone, right? Everyone has this. And it comes to like, do I only show up when things are good? And that's where you got to lean into support. But most of us, we struggle on our own and we hide. And we get that. I'll be lying if, I said everyone in Academy comes in and they're always on it. They're not, you know it. Many of you are in there. You fall off the wagon and you disappear for a few weeks. But the key is there's always something to come back to there. There's always a place to be there. And you can't stop that. We have 1.2% churn this year in Academy. World-class churn, meaning percent of people who leave, is considered 4%. We have 1.2 because the community, the members, the people in it are brilliant. People feel supported. The odd person doesn't. We can't do anything about that. You can't make people do stuff. You can only provide the environment, the tools, and the guidance. But for the most part, if you struggle, you know, if you only do things when you want to, you're going to struggle. And that's where you have to make things simple and easy and like so simple that you couldn't not do it. And most people are trying to do too much. When life gets tough, simplify, make it easier, narrow in on the one thing you can do every day that helps, and it'll keep you in the game. I said this about my fitness. The scene in Jerry Maguire when he says, "You are hanging on by a very thin thread, my man." I just dig that about you. I love that scene. That's my fitness endeavors right now with a new baby and life stress. My fitness endeavors are hanging on by a very thin thread. I've had to simplify, shorten workouts, but get there somehow and do something. And that keeps you going. If you're like, oh, I'm just all over the shop and I'm trying to do all this stuff, you'll never do it, you know? So staying in the game comes down to making things easier, challenge skills ratio. I love that, Michaela. I like that too. Okay, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Happy to answer any questions on WhatsApp. Um, One of the things say, I would say people love stuff like this. It's like, oh, imagine it every week. Imagine it every week. And imagine a community of people doing the same thing. And imagine access to all the resources we have. And so I get so passionate in the 5 days. I'm like, imagine having this all the time. How much better would things be and easier? So anyone interested in the Academy, reach out. Anyone interested in High Performance Mind, reach out. We'll send you the relevant information. We'll have a conversation. Anyone in the Academy interested in High Performance Mind, reach out and just say, hey, what's the crack? What's it about? Just send you the information. There's no pressure of us. We're not those sleazy sales companies where they get you to sell your flipping car to spend 20 grand to learn how to journal. It's mad some of the stuff I see these days. You know, learn my manifesting journal technique for only £4,000. It's like, wow, really? I'm in the wrong game. Although we do send you journals, but they're not £4,000. Right, folks, I'm out of here. Have a fantastic night. Let's hope this was recorded. Bye bye.